I am standing in my warm kitchen watching my 6-year-old daughter, Lily, draw pictures at the table. Her little hands move across the paper with such joy, such innocence. But my mind drifts back 6 years ago, when I stood outside my parents' house with a suitcase and a 3-month pregnant belly, rain pouring down on me as they slammed the door. I never imagined that the same people who said I was no longer their daughter would come back demanding to be grandparents. And they were willing to do things I never thought possible. Before I share what happened next, I want to know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe if you want to hear how I finally stood up for myself and my daughter. This story taught me that blood does not always mean family. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, the only daughter of Harold and Donna. My father owned an auto parts store on Main Street, and my mother worked as a secretary at the local church. From the outside, we looked like the perfect American family. Church every Sunday dinner at 6 o'clock sharp and smiles for all the neighbors. But inside our home, everything revolved around image. What would people think? What would the congregation say? My parents cared more about their reputation than anything else. I learned early that their love came with conditions. As long as I was the perfect daughter, the straight-A student, the girl who sang in the choir and never caused trouble, they loved me. But I always felt like I was walking on thin ice, never knowing when it might crack beneath my feet. I spent my childhood trying to make them proud. I never went to parties. I never dated boys they did not approve of. I followed every rule, met every expectation. But no matter how hard I tried, it never felt like enough. There was always something more I needed to do, some higher standard I needed to reach. When I turned 19, I enrolled in the community college about 30 minutes from home. My parents wanted me to stay close, and I did not argue. That was where I met Marcus. He was 22, working as an electrician while taking night classes. He had kind eyes and calloused hands from honest work. When he smiled at me in the hallway, something inside me woke up. Marcus was everything my parents would hate. He came from a working-class family. His father drove trucks, and his mother cleaned houses. They did not go to church, did not care about what the neighbors thought. They were simple, genuine people who laughed loudly and loved fiercely. I fell in love with Marcus and with his family. We dated for a year, keeping things quiet from my parents. I knew they would not approve. Marcus was not from the right family, did not have the right background, did not fit into their perfect image. But I could not stay away from him. He made me feel seen for the first time in my life, not for what I could do or achieve, but just for who I was. Then I found out I was pregnant. I remember sitting on the bathroom floor, staring at that positive test, my hands shaking. I was terrified, but when I told Marcus, he dropped to his knees and hugged me. He was happy. He wanted this baby. He wanted me. He talked about getting married, finding a bigger apartment building, a life together. His excitement slowly replaced my fear with something that felt almost like hope. But I knew I had to tell my parents. I drove home on a Saturday evening. My parents were having dinner when I walked in. The house smelled like pot roast and tension. I sat down at the table, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I told them everything, about Marcus, about the pregnancy, about his proposal. My father slammed his fist on the table so hard the dishes rattled. He stood up, his face red with rage. My mother started crying, not tears of concern for me, but tears of shame. "You have brought disgrace on this family," my mother said, her voice cracking. "How could you do this to us? You are no longer my daughter," my father said. The words hit me like a physical blow. "Get out of this house, now!" I begged them. I pleaded. I told them Marcus was a good man, that we would get married, that everything would be okay. But my father grabbed my arm and dragged me to the front door. He threw my purse after me and slammed the door in my face. I stood in the rain, sobbing, my clothes getting soaked. I looked up at the living room window and saw my mother standing there watching me. For one moment, I thought she might come out. I thought she might choose me. But then she reached up and pulled the curtain closed. I called Marcus from a payphone. He came and got me within 20 minutes. I cried the whole way to his apartment. That night, I lost my family, but I did not know yet that I would find a better one. The next few months were the hardest of my life. Marcus and I rented a tiny one-bedroom apartment that we could barely afford. He picked up extra shifts at work, sometimes leaving at 5 in the morning and not coming home until 10 at night. I had to drop out of college and took a part-time job at a cafe, working until my belly got too big to stand for long hours. I tried calling my mother. Over and over, I dialed that number I had known my whole life. She never answered. I sent them an invitation to our small wedding at the courthouse. No one came. When I gave birth to Lily, I was surrounded by Marcus and his mother and his sister. But my own parents were nowhere to be found. I remember lying in that hospital bed, holding my newborn daughter, watching other new mothers receive visits from their families. Grandmothers cooing over babies, grandfathers looking proud. I had none of that. Just an empty chair where my mother should have been. But I made a decision in that hospital room. I would not let their rejection define me. I would build a life so full of love that their absence would not matter. When Lily turned 1, I started taking online classes at night after she went to sleep. It took me 3 years, but I earned my degree in accounting. Marcus got promoted, then promoted again. We saved every penny we could. When Lily was 4, we bought a small 3-bedroom house in a nice suburb. It had a backyard with a swing set and a kitchen with enough room for a real dining table. I found a job at an accounting firm, and within 2 years, I was promoted to senior accountant. Marcus started his own electrical business, and it began to thrive. We built everything from nothing with no help from anyone except each other. By the time Lily was 6, our life was good, really good. She was a bright, curious little girl who loved to draw and ask a million questions. Marcus and I had a strong marriage forged in the fire of hardship. We had friends, a community, a home filled with love and laughter. I had done the work to heal. I went to therapy. I learned to accept that my parents' rejection was not about me, it was about them. I stopped waiting for a phone call that would never come. I stopped hoping for an apology that would never arrive. But sometimes, late at night, the wound still ached. And sometimes, Lily would ask questions that broke my heart. "Mommy, why do I not have grandparents like the other kids?" I never knew how to answer that question. It was a Sunday afternoon in October when everything changed. I was in the kitchen making dinner, Marcus was in the garage working on something, and Lily was at the table with her crayons. The doorbell rang and I wiped my hands on a towel expecting a neighbor, or maybe a package delivery. I opened the door and my whole body went cold. My parents stood on my porch. My father looked older, grayer, smaller than I remembered. My mother had tears streaming down her face. They were holding gift bags with pink tissue paper sticking out. "Bernice," my mother said, her voice trembling, "we were wrong. We were so wrong. Please, we just want to meet our granddaughter." I could not speak. I could not move. 6 years of silence, and now they stood at my door like nothing had happened. My father cleared his throat. He would not look at me directly. "We made a mistake." He said the words sounding forced, like they were physically painful to say. Before I could respond, Lily came running up behind me. "Mommy, who is that?" My mother dropped to her knees, her face lighting up. "I am your grandma's sweetheart. I have waited so long to meet you." I pulled Lily behind me, my protective instincts kicking in. "I need time to think about this." I said, my voice harder than I expected. "You cannot just show up after 6 years and expect everything to be fine." My mother looked hurt. My father looked annoyed. But they handed me a piece of paper with their phone number and new address. They had moved, apparently, closer to us. That fact made my stomach turn. I closed the door and leaned against it, shaking. Over the next few days, I did some digging. I reached out to an old family friend from back home, someone who still went to the same church as my parents. What she told me changed everything. My father had heart problems. He needed surgery, expensive surgery, and their insurance was not great. His auto parts store had gone bankrupt 2 years ago when the economy tanked. They had lost their house, their savings, everything. They were living in a cheap rental apartment struggling to get by. But there was more. The people at church had found out what they did to me all those years ago. How they threw their pregnant daughter out into the rain. The whispers had started the judgment. The same people who once admired Harold and Donna now looked at them differently. They had lost their precious reputation. They have been telling everyone how much they regret it, the family friend told me. But honestly, Bernice, I think they just need someone to take care of them now that they are old and alone. I sat with that information for a long time. Part of me wanted to slam the door on them forever. But another part of me, the part that still remembered being a little girl who just wanted her parents to love her, wondered if maybe people could change. I talked to Marcus about it. He was skeptical, protective, angry on my behalf. But he also said he would support whatever decision I made. I decided to give them a chance. A small one, with very clear boundaries. I met my parents at a coffee shop, neutral territory. I laid out my conditions. They could see Lily once a week at my house with me present. They were not allowed to be alone with her. They were not allowed to say anything negative about Marcus. They had to respect my rules, my home, my family. My mother nodded, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Of course, of course. Whatever you say. But my father bristled. We are her grandparents, he said. We have rights. I looked him straight in the eye. You gave up those rights 6 years ago when you threw me out. These are my terms. Take them or leave them. He opened his mouth to argue, but my mother put her hand on his arm. He closed his mouth and nodded stiffly. I thought that was the end of the negotiation. I thought we had an understanding. I was so wrong. The first couple of visits went smoothly. My parents came on Sunday afternoons, sat in my living room, played with Lily, and left after 2 hours. My father was stiff and uncomfortable, but my mother seemed genuinely delighted by her granddaughter. I started to let myself hope that maybe this could work. But then the cracks began to show. It started small. My mother bought Lily an expensive dollhouse without asking me first. When I told her gifts needed to be discussed with me beforehand, she apologized, but looked annoyed. The next week, she brought a fancy dress that cost more than I would ever spend on a 6-year-old. My father started saying things to Lily that made me uncomfortable. Grandpa and Grandma love you more than anyone in the whole world, he told her once, looking pointedly at me. He asked her questions about our home life. Does Daddy work late? Is Mommy ever sad? Do your parents ever fight? I pulled him aside and told him those questions were inappropriate. He acted offended, like I was being paranoid. Then my mother started pushing boundaries harder. She showed up early one day when she knew Marcus would be at work. I just wanted some special grandma time, she said, trying to come inside. I blocked the doorway and told her she needed to leave. She cried and accused me of being cruel. I reduced the visits to every other week. I needed space to think. That was when things got ugly. My father called me furious. You are keeping our granddaughter from us. He shouted into the phone. We will not stand for this. We have rights, Bernice. Legal rights. I stayed calm. You have the rights I choose to give you. Nothing more. We will see about that, he said and hung up. 2 days later, I got a call from Lily's school. My mother had shown up at pickup time trying to take Lily home. She told the front office she was the grandmother and had permission. Thankfully, the school followed protocol and called me. I had to leave work in the middle of an important meeting to sort it out. I found my mother in the school office crying and playing the victim. I just wanted to surprise her, she said. I do not understand why everyone is treating me like a criminal. I took Lily home and called my parents that evening. I was shaking with anger, but I kept my voice steady. If you ever do anything like that again, you will never see Lily again. Do you understand me? My father laughed. Actually laughed. You cannot do that. We will take you to court. We will get a lawyer. Grandparents have rights in this state. Try it, I said, and hung up. A week later, I received legal papers. My parents had actually done it. They had hired a lawyer and filed for grandparents' visitation rights. But that was not the worst part. In their filing, they claimed I was mentally unstable. They said I was deliberately alienating Lily from her loving grandparents. They painted themselves as victims of an ungrateful, disturbed daughter. And then I got a visit from Child Protective Services. Someone had called in an anonymous tip that I was neglecting my daughter. The social worker was apologetic and professional, but she still had to come into my home, look through my refrigerator, check Lily's bedroom, ask her questions. My 6-year-old daughter had to be interviewed by a stranger because my parents wanted revenge. That night, after Lily was asleep, I broke down in Marcus's arms. "They are trying to destroy everything we built," I sobbed. "After everything they did to me, they are still trying to ruin my life." Marcus held me tight. "We are going to fight this," he said, "together, and we are going to win." I had spent 6 years building a life from nothing. I had survived their rejection, their silence, their abandonment. I was not going to let them tear it all down now. The next morning, I hired the best family lawyer in the city, a woman named Patricia, who had a reputation for being tough and smart. She looked at my case and told me something that gave me hope. "Grandparents' rights are not automatic," she said. "Especially when the grandparents voluntarily abandoned the relationship for years. We can fight this." I started gathering evidence. Every text message my father had sent threatening me. The video footage from Lily's school showing my mother trying to take her. Witness statements from neighbors and teachers. I reached out to people back in Ohio who knew what happened 6 years ago. I found the old neighbor who had watched from her window as my father dragged me out of the house and threw me into the rain while I was pregnant. The social worker completed her investigation and found nothing. Her report stated clearly that Lily was healthy, happy, well cared for, and showed no signs of neglect or abuse. She noted that the anonymous tip appeared to be unfounded. The court date arrived on a cold morning in February. I sat in that courtroom with Marcus on one side and Patricia on the other. My parents sat across the aisle with their lawyer, a tired-looking man in a cheap suit. Patricia presented our case methodically. She showed the judge evidence of my parents abandoning me when I was 19, pregnant and vulnerable. She presented the witness statements, including one from the old neighbor who watched my father throw me out. She played audio recordings of my father threatening me on the phone. She showed the school security footage of my mother trying to take Lily without permission. My parents' lawyer tried to argue that they had changed, that they deeply regretted their past actions, that they just wanted to be part of their granddaughter's life. The judge looked at my father. "Sir, in the 6 years between when you threw your daughter out of your house and when you showed up at her door, did you ever attempt to contact her?" My father shifted uncomfortably. "Well, we thought she needed space." "Did you attend your granddaughter's birth?" "No." "Did you send birthday cards, Christmas gifts, any acknowledgement at all that this child existed?" "No." The judge turned to my mother. "Ma'am, your daughter testified that she called you repeatedly after you expelled her from your home. Is that true?" My mother's face crumpled. She did not answer. "Ma'am, I need a verbal response. Did your pregnant daughter call you seeking reconciliation?" "Yes," my mother whispered. "And did you ever answer those calls?" Silence. "Did you ever call her back?" "No." The judge took a deep breath. "I have reviewed all the evidence in this case. It is clear to me that the petitioners voluntarily terminated their relationship with their daughter and made no effort whatsoever to establish a relationship with their grandchild for 6 years. They only reappeared when their own circumstances became difficult. Furthermore, their recent behavior, including attempting to remove the child from school without authorization and filing a false report with Child Protective Services, demonstrates a concerning disregard for boundaries and the well-being of the child." She looked at my parents with something like pity. Grandparents' rights exist to maintain existing relationships that benefit the child. There was no existing relationship here, and based on the evidence before me, I am not convinced that forcing one would be in this child's best interest. The petition is denied. Additionally, I am granting the respondent's request for a restraining order. The petitioners are to have no contact with the minor child or her parents. It was over. We had won. I walked out of that courthouse into the cold February air holding Marcus's hand. I did not feel triumphant or vindicated. I just felt tired and relieved and finally free. The weeks after the court case were strange. I had spent so long fighting, so long being afraid, that I did not know what to do with the peace. I kept waiting for something else to happen, For another attack, another threat. But nothing came. I started seeing a therapist again, someone who specialized in family trauma. I needed help processing everything, not just the past few months, but the past 25 years. All the ways my parents had shaped me, hurt me, made me doubt my own worth. Lily asked about her grandparents a few times. I kept my explanations simple and age-appropriate. Sometimes people who are supposed to love us do not know how to do it the right way. But that is not your fault, and it is not mine either. We have so many people who love us. And it was true. Marcus's mother had always treated me like a daughter. Our neighbors brought over casseroles and offered to babysit. My coworkers sent flowers after the court case. We had built a community of people who showed up for us, who chose us. I realized something important during those months of healing. For my whole life, I had wanted my parents to love me. I had contorted myself into shapes, trying to earn their approval, their acceptance. And when they threw me away, part of me kept hoping they would come back, that they would realize they were wrong, that they would finally see me. But their return was not the redemption I had dreamed of. It was just more pain, more manipulation, more proof that some people are not capable of the love you need from them. I had to stop waiting. I had to stop hoping. I had to accept that my parents were who they were, and they were never going to change. But here is the thing I did not expect. When I finally let go of that hope, I did not feel empty. I felt free. I stopped carrying the weight of their rejection. I stopped defining myself by their abandonment. I realized that their inability to love me said everything about them and nothing about me. Today, Lily is 8 years old. She is happy and healthy and so loved. Marcus and I just celebrated our 9th wedding anniversary. We are talking about maybe having another baby, expanding this family we built from nothing. I do not hate my parents. I do not wish them harm. I hope they find whatever peace they are looking for. But they will find it without me, without my daughter. Some bridges once burned cannot be rebuilt. And some people, no matter how much you want them to simply, cannot be trusted with your heart. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It is survival. It is self-respect. It is teaching your children that they deserve to be treated with love and dignity, and so do you. I used to think that being thrown away meant I was worthless. Now I know the truth. Being thrown away just meant I had to learn to fly on my own. And when I finally spread my wings, I discovered I could soar higher than I ever imagined. If you are out there right now feeling abandoned by the people who should have loved you most, please hear me. Their inability to love you does not define your worth. You are not broken because they could not see your value. You get to choose your own family. You get to write your own story. And sometimes the family you build is stronger than the one you were born into. I would love to hear from you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who did not respect you? How did you find the strength to stand up for yourself? Share your story in the comments below. And if this video touched you, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who might need to hear it today. Your support means everything, and it helps these stories reach more people who might be going through something similar. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being part of this community. I am sending you love and strength wherever you are. Remember, you deserve a family that chooses you. And if the one you were born into cannot do that, you have every right to go build your own. Take care of yourselves. I will see you in the next one.